Hi all, if you're planning to start your GMAT preparation in November 2020, just want to lay what is a roadmap ahead for you. Many of us will think November 2020 is a little too late to start the GMAT preparation if you have to apply to any school meaningfully for a 2021 MBA. Is it true, or is it still possible for you to start the GMAT and catch the 2021 deadlines? Let's take a look at it. Let's look at what you need to do if you have to catch 2021 deadline after answering whether it is possible. Second, we'll also look at if you're planning to do it for a 2022, is starting in 2020 November a little too early, or is it going to give you a headway? Is it going to put you in a situation of advantage? Let's look at both these things. Let's start with the 2021 application calendar because that happens earlier than 2022. Guys who are starting for 2022, yeah, you have adequate time. We'll touch upon that definitely. I'm not going to not talk about it. But 2021 calendar, will you be able to catch, right? Let's look at two categories of people who are preparing for it. We'll start with the people who are starting the GMAT for the first time right now. You just found out one of your friends has gotten admitted into a school, or you realize that there's an application calendar which is like awaiting right now, and you probably thought about GMAT as a possibility only now. Does it make sense? It certainly makes sense. What do you need to do to make it work? That is the question that you need to be wondering, right? Let's say starting from November 2nd, November 1st week is what we have. Give or take, you have about 55 to 60 days in hand, right? So I would want you to have a deadline of taking the GMAT by the end of this calendar year, which is December 31st, 2020, you should have taken the GMAT. So 55-60 days window is what we are looking at. Try and invest 2.5 hours to 3 hours each day and upping the time a little more during the weekends. So give or take, we are talking about anything between 220 to 250 hours of preparation over the next 60 days is what I am budgeting for. If you have a 250-hour preparation window, you can do justice to your GMAT preparation. I'll just quickly outline what you need to be doing. This for people who are starting afresh, right? In the first 20-25 days, quickly ramp up all of the basics, right? Invest equal times every day or alternate days for the quant and the verbal section, right? Do one quant topic a day and then look at something in sentence correction. Alternate between the two topics on 2 days, or if you're someone who cannot invest full 3 hours into one single thing, budget 1.5 hours in the morning for quant, budget 1.5 hours in the evening for verbal. 20 days, you should have a good handle on all the basics. How to find out LCM? How do I find out the remainder when a certain number is given? What is probability? How do I find out the area of a right triangle? As much as what is a noun-verb agreement? What is a number agreement case? When is a possessive pronoun right? When do I use an apostrophe for a possessive pronoun? How does the comparison error work? How does the parallel construct error work? How do I identify what is the assumption in this argument? All of these theory components you need to ramp up by the 20th of November. Once you got that far in terms of getting the basics in place, then get started with your practice. Between November 20th and December 10th, you needed to have solved at least 1,000 questions between the quant and the verbal, right? You'll be able to manage probably 500, 600 to each, so cross 1,200 questions. Make sure that you have a different mix both in terms of variety of questions and in terms of difficulty levels. Hit December 10th, I would want you to spend the next 10 days doing two things simultaneously. I would want you to focus on both taking practice tests. Good places to pick practice tests are basically the two free tests available on the official MBA site, which is mba.com, and also pay and buy those 4 available paid tests. It's available to you for $90 odd. So get those 4 paid tests. There's the most representative tests available, right? So you have to budget for 6 mock tests. In addition to that, you need to ramp up at least one OG, right? Pick the 2021 official guide, run through the entire 990,000 questions that are there. So this is between December 10th and the December 20th. As you hit December 20th, you should have taken 2 out of the 6 mocks. You'll know where you stand right now. Is my CR my strong point, or is my CR my Achilles heel? Whatever is your strong point, ensure that you do very well in that. And the one which is your Achilles heel, the place where you are really struggling and wanting to do things, ensure that your head is above water. And also have a good fix as to if you're planning for a 700 plus GMAT score. For most Indian test takers, 700 plus is kind of a pass mark. There is no pass mark in the GMAT, but we are so used to what is a cutoff, what is a pass mark. It's deep in our psyche. So that 700 is the deep psyche cutoff for us, right? How do you get that 700? What combination of what I score in the quant, what I score in the verbal is going to make that work is something that should be in your head. Is it a 49 and a 36? Is it a 48 and a 38? Have those breakups and ideas in it and accordingly work and ensure that your GMAT by the 31st of December lands you with this score. If you manage to do that, if you manage to do that, if you have a 700 plus GMAT score by the 31st of December, all is well. Then you can start looking at where all you can apply. I'm just going to walk you through some places that you can apply, and will also tell you there is something that you need to plug in on top of whatever we have discussed. That's something I'll tell you before I walk you through the deadline. That something is, start reading about the schools that you want to apply to. Start getting a resume in place, because even if you're preparing for 3 hours, there will still be time available for you. The IPL season is over. Don't bother about catching any other football season. Just focus. These 60 days you are investing in your career, right? Essentially check out, these are the schools I need to apply. These are the application requirement. Get your resume in place. Fine tune your resume. The resume that you're going to make for a business school is very different from the resume that you made when you're looking for a job. When you're looking for a job, all your projects made sense. Whether you worked on JSON or you worked on J2EE or you did 3 deals in terms of having 2 companies merge or any of those things, those would have mattered when you actually wrote a job resume. Whereas for a business school resume, you'll be writing things differently. Look at how to write a business school resume. It will take you 10-15 days of half an hour, 45 minutes investment every day to tweak it, to get it to some shape. Show it to 3-4 people, get their opinion on it. If possible, I even go to the extent of saying, sign up for some application editing service. Those guys help fine tune and polish your resume and essays a lot. That's a money worth invested, because you're applying once, got a good GMAT score, let your application and resume position you, put you in a good light that anyone who looks at it would want to interview you. So invest time in that. Shortlist the schools that you want to apply to. Start looking at their application essays. Start writing drafts. Don't wait for the GMAT score to write the draft. If your GMAT does not work out the way you want, this draft that you have written, more often than not, many business schools have similar essays. They want to know, why do you want to do an MBA? What are your career goals after an MBA? What is it that you did to exhibit leadership skills? So these are common questions that schools ask in passive voice or active voice between different schools. So anything that you write as essays for a couple of schools to catch a deadline is going to help you with any time that you're going to be applying at a later date. So it's not some effort which is wasted. So invest about 45 minutes to an hour in addition to your GMAT preparation. Plug in somewhere here and there, right? Start reading about it. Look at sample essays, look at sample resume, work on it, and get that process going side by side. That's a beautiful relief from doing this GMAT preparation, right? So now, if you have a GMAT by the 31st of December 2020, and you have a 700 plus score, and you got this parallel processing of application going, if you have 5+ years experience roughly in the Indian context, you'll be able to catch these deadlines. I am Ahmedabad, Bangalore, Calcutta for their 1-year executive MBA program. The deadlines are Jan 4th, Jan 1st, 2021. ISB obviously has a deadline which is further down the line, which is on the 10th of January 2021, right? So you'll be able to catch these Indian B school deadlines. Is it only Indian business schools that you'll be catching? You have schools which are available in this. I've just got 2-3 schools to give you an idea about what you can apply to, right? This Darden, USC, Marshall, NYU student, every single business school will have a January deadline available. I've just shown some numbers for your idea. If you have your GMAT score by the 31st of December, you can apply to them. What if you miss that, right? You try to take the GMAT by the 31st of December, you realize that your marks are giving you only a 580, 590. You realize that's not good enough to apply. Ramp up your preparation. Don't give up. The 31st December did not work out. Set the new deadline. Say that it's going to be January 31st or February 15th. Push yourself that much harder. That will give you another 150 more hours of preparation time. You will reach a 700 without any problem. You hit a 700 by the 31st of January, you have March, April deadlines available. Obviously, yes, I'm not going to tell something that's untrue. March, April deadlines are not the best deadlines for any international applicant. Then why am I giving this? For 2 reasons. Pick 2 schools which you might want to apply, which if you get an admission, you would like to take it up, but they are not your most desirable schools, and apply to them in the March deadline. What it does to you is this. If you get an admit in that deadline and everything goes well and you want to start your MBA in 2021, you have an opportunity to start. What if it does not work out? You anyway did not bet on a March deadline. The March deadline did not work out, but the effort that you put into the March deadline in terms of getting your application essay, in terms of getting a resume, all of that is going to pay rich dividend when you're trying to catch early round deadlines for the next year. If you don't have these deadlines, I bet you are not going to take a look at your resume. I bet you are not going to take a look at your application essays. Getting these application essays for a 2021 March deadline is going to pay rich dividend. It's the runway that you are laying for a 2022 early round admissions. That come June, you can basically pick these applications, tweak here and there, fine tune it, hone it. Whatever you did in these 3 months, you might want to add it. You might want to give some color to it and then push it out. That's it, right? 2022 application is going to be a smooth sail if you caught this deadline, irrespective of what the outcome of this deadline is, right? If it turned out to be good, and you want to take that school up, wonderful. We have had students who have applied in March down deadline and have got admissions and have done their MBA. Not many of them, but it is not a zero as a number. It's a small fraction, but it definitely is a small fraction, and it could basically work for you. This is when it comes to US deadlines. There are places where the calendar starts only in January, or they have two calendars. Look at Europe. Europe, many good schools have these calendars. INSEAD, for instance, the best school in France, right? Basically, they have for Jan 22, Spring 22 calendar. Round 1 deadline is in March. So if you take the GMAT by the 31st of January, you are ready to apply for R1. You're catching them in the earliest round, right? If you want to apply to Singapore, NTU Singapore has March 31 as the last deadline for 2021 MBA admissions. So enough and more options exist. It's never too late to start a GMAT. November 2020, can I catch 2021? I think if you have your mindset on it, you should be able to catch, and you will catch. What you need to be asking, as I mentioned, is what do I have to do to make it work, right? We're working in COVID times. Many of you may not have resumed work from your office. You might be working from home. That gives you the window that a lot of commute is avoided. You can fine tune your work day in such a way that you can plug in this entire preparation window. Once you start going back to office, things are going to open up, going to be more unlocked features coming into this entire lockdown scenario that you'll find increasingly it goes back to the routine that we were before the COVID times. Yes, it's a welcome routine, not that I don't want it, but from a GMAT preparation perspective, the commute, the work-life balance and other things may not give you adequate room to prepare as well as you might be able to do right now. So get started with the GMAT preparation. Don't postpone it any further. The best thing is the GMAT score is valid for 5 years. What if you don't catch 2021 deadlines? This score, even if you write it by March 31st, is going to keep you in good stead for a 2022 admission, right? So get started. Best wishes for your GMAT preparation. How do I go about preparing for the GMAT? We have a couple of options when it comes to the online preparation window. We have live online classes, details of which are available at wzko.in/live. We also have self-paced programs. You choose when you want to study. It's not fixed at specific points in time in a day. Then go for this wzko.in/core, right? These classes run thrice a week, 2 hours in Indian time, IST, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. You can finish your work day and you can invest in the GMAT after that. Best wishes for your GMAT preparation. Have any doubts, any query, just ping us. You can reach us through these websites or through the phone number 95000 48484.